Hello everyone, how is your day going? In today's presentation, we are going to discuss saving for emergencies, or better still, saving for the rainy day. We'll see why we need to save for emergencies and some of the best ways to do so. Let me share two short stories with you. Mr. X was very good with his goal setting and budgeting. He used the excess funds that he generated year over year to buy land and houses. Suddenly last year, Mr. X, my very good friend, lost his job. And this happened in May last year, and he has remained unemployed to date. It's been very tough for Mr. X to feed his family, and more especially, it's been very tough for Mr. X to meet his medical bill for himself and his children. Mr. S has been trying, but he's not been able to sell any of his land or houses because of the poor state of the economy. Growing up as a child, I remember very well that my mom used to hide cash in secret places, sometimes in boxes, under the bed, and even in places that herself could not even remember sometimes. She would usually bring out this cash when our family was faced with one form of emergency or the other. Yes, even with good goal setting and well-prepared budget and a good intention to implement the budget, events that are beyond our control could still happen. Any of us could lose our job. A member of the family could be very sick. Death could even happen. I hear somebody say, God forbid. Yes, God forbid. But sometimes things that are beyond our control could happen. And we need to be prepared to respond as individuals and as a family. We don't need to judge ourselves. But let me ask you this question. Do you have a rainy day account? If you already have an emergency fund account, good job, congratulations. But don't go away. You may learn one or two things on how to improve on that account. If you do not already have one, it's okay. We will talk about how you can commit to setting up an emergency fund account and how to improve the balances on that account from time to time. But before we do that, I want to appeal to you to please like, subscribe, and share my videos with your family and friends so that they can also benefit from the financial education that we are getting. Now let's go back to the presentation. Why should we have an emergency or rainy day account? First, it gives us peace of mind. Without peace, there can be progress. Second, An emergency fund helps us to focus on other forms of savings and projects and other needs that we may want to work on. An emergency fund helps us to avoid disappointment from friends, from families, or even from the government. How do we set up and operate a good emergency fund account? My first recommendation is that you sit down as a family and agree on the need to have a rainy day account. Next, use a separate bank account different from your regular day-to-day bank account. You could also use an investment account. For example, you could use a tax-free savings account or a deposit account. But if you are using an investment account, you must ensure that the account is easily accessible or flexible. Make sure you don't have a fixed account for, say, 2 years, 3 years. No, an account that you can easily access on a need basis. That account must also be stable. Don't go and invest in the stock market and say that account is meant for an emergency. No, market could be down when you need that funds. So the account must be liquid. No risky investment when you are talking about the rainy day account. Remember, the goal here is to have a reserve that can help you to respond to an emergency. It's not to make huge interest or returns. Next, be realistic with your goal to avoid failure and frustration. Start small and increase your savings over time. Your ultimate goal will be to have an emergency fund set aside that will last you and your family for, say, 3 to 6 months. Put in another way, you have to strive to save an emergency fund that is the equivalent of your total family income, that is for 3 to 6 months, the equivalent of your income for 3 to 6 months as a reserve for emergency. Another recommendation is to commit to saving on a regular basis. Thank God for technology. You could go to your bank or even online, make your savings automatic so that your savings comes out of your regular salary account or income account straight to your emergency fund account. I'll give an example here to make it easier for us. Let's say you earn 50,000 naira per month. You could commit to saving 3 or even 2, 3 or 5% of your monthly income. If you commit to that, you'll be saving on a monthly basis between 1,000 naira to 2,500 naira. Can you do that? If you earn $3,000 per month, you could save anywhere between $60 to $150 per month. Start with that. Start small, and over time, you could increase the amount that you save regularly or on a consistent basis. Treat savings as your first expense. You could also postpone or give up some discretionary expenses or things until you are able to build up your rainy day account. For example, if you drink less. If you smoke less frequently. Reduce your shopping. Look at your list. What are the things I can give up? Review your bills. What am I paying for? What can I give up for a certain amount of time, say for 2 years? What sacrifices can I make so that I can have that emergency fund for my family, for myself? I know it's not easy. I know it is not easy. Lucky has been talking about saving. I know it's not easy. Let's try to do it. Let's try to commit to it. Now, as we do this difficult task, what are some alternative sources of funds that we can put in place as we build our emergency funds? In Africa, for example, we could rely on our families and our friends. We could rely on government programs in the Western world. We could apply for AIDS. It is not easy, but you could. It's another source that you could fall back on. Now, listen to this. This is very important. As you build your emergency fund account, I would say go to the bank, sit down with your banker and discuss. Ask them about line of credit or a home line plan, an unsecured line of credit or a secured line of credit. You could secure the line of credit with your house if you already have one. The idea here is to have a line in place, right? To have a line in place when things are still okay, so that you can respond to an emergency. A simple way to illustrate this. Let's say Mr. X still has a job, Mr. X we talked about. It will be easier for the bank to approve a line of credit for him secured with any of his houses, or even an unsecured line of credit. Then he could fall back on that line of credit during the emergency to take care of his family needs. But if Mr. S walks to a bank and say, Mr. Banker, I just lost my job. Can you give me a line of credit? Of course, the bank will say no. How will you pay back? So we need to put that line of credit in place while things are still okay, so that we can respond to an emergency if required. But a warning here, that line of credit should be strictly for emergencies, not for consumption. You can put the line in place, and if you don't use it, usually the bank will not charge any interest. You could also get a permanent life insurance policy where you can borrow against the premiums you have paid in the past in the case of a loss of job or any other form of emergency. Or you could give up the policy, you could surrender the policy for a certain amount. So talk with your insurance broker, talk with your insurance company to have that personal life insurance in place. Now, people have asked me this question many times. okay, can I use my RRSP, Registered Retirement Savings Plan, for emergencies? My answer would be no. Don't do that. I don't recommend that. You could do that though, but it is not advisable because you could pay anywhere from 10% to 30% in taxes when you withdraw from your RRSP to respond to emergencies. And on top of that, the amount that you withdrew will be added back to your income when you are doing your tax returns. So the RRSP, we'll talk about that some other day, but for now, just know that it's not meant to be used as an emergency fund. Congratulations, you have committed. Yes, you have committed to opening up an emergency fund account. Don't forget to review this account in the next 3 months. And when you see that you're on track to achieving your goal, I will say reward yourself. And if it's not going well, make the necessary adjustment. That will be it for our presentation today. But I want to appeal to you once again to please subscribe, like, and share my videos so that your family members and your friends will also benefit from the financial education that we are sharing together. Our next presentation will be on credit. We'll talk about how we can help our young ones and people who are new to any country to establish their credit. Most cases, our young ones and newcomers to a country will be starting from zero. We'll talk about how we can help them. Until then, I want to say thank you very much, merci beaucoup, and bye.